Welcome to Kingdom Talk with your host and master life coach, Dr. Shalom.
Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone to another episode of Kingdom Talk. Well, I'm your host, Dr. Shalania Bell, this evening, and we have a treat for you. So, what I actually do here at Kingdom Talk, I help female kingdom entrepreneurs dominate the marketplace by overcoming procrastination, by erasing limiting beliefs, as well as extending their comfort zone without feeling overwhelming and frustrated. So today we have a treat. We have an awesome speaker all the way from the Fort Worth, Arlington, Texas area. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to have her on. I think she's going to be an awesome asset to a lot of you all that may have been going through the grieving process due to the times that we're in today. I'm just super excited to be able to introduce her. She has over 30 years experience in her area. I'm not going to prolong the time for y'all because I want you all to hear what she has to say this evening. So I'm going to present to some and introduce to others. Dr. Tonya Cunningham. How you doing this evening?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Awesome. I am excited to be able to have you here right here on Kingdom Talk this evening. You guys, this is Miss Tonya Cunningham. She is from the Texas area and she is a grief coach. They call her the grief doctor. I'm like, oh my gosh, the grief doctor. We need this today with everything that's going on in our area with the COVID and with just life itself, because even before COVID, we still had death. We have like everything that's dealing with loss. So she's definitely an asset to our community. So I definitely had to have her on this evening. And I'm just excited, you guys. So go ahead as you come in. Go ahead and share this out to your friends and family. Let them know, that we have someone in the house this evening. She's going to give us some tips. She's going to show us how to unpack this pain. You have pain going on throughout your life, throughout your journey. And sometimes most of us know with our culture didn't understand about going to a counselor, going to someone for that help. So she's here this evening to help us unpack the pain. I'm so excited to have her here. We have a lot of guests on with us this evening. I would like to welcome each and every one of you all for coming on. Hello. I would like to just welcome and to say hello to everyone. And as you come in, state where you're calling from. As you come in, go ahead and state your name and where you're calling from so we can give you a shout out right here on Kingdom Talk. Well, you guys, Dr. Tonya, how are you this evening?
I am wonderful this Friday evening. How are you doing?
I am blessed. I am excited to have you in the house today. Yes, I am. I told a friend, we have a co-friend, I said, look, Miss Tanya's going to come in and she's going to shut it down. I already know it because a lot of people need this. They need this information. I'm excited for them to be able to even get the information. So this is definitely a treat to me, and I know it's going to help deliver a lot of more people that may be watching it this evening. So again, I'm not going to hold you long. I want her to go on and just start and begin. So one question I want to start with, though, Dr. Tonya, is I saw that you have been in this industry for over 30 years. That's a long time. Most people don't stay with one thing that long, right? So you've been tapping into this industry for a very, very long time. So the first question that I want to ask you this evening, what made you begin to start dealing with the grief process?
Well, actually, Dr. Shalonda, it was a calling. It called me, it chose me. And I've always wanted to be a mortician since I was a little girl. So I went to
Wow.
college, and in the 4-year college, I got my undergrad at UT Austin. Of course, they didn't have that there. But I went to mortuary school after I got my undergrad because I always wanted to be a mortician. So I would say it's a calling.
Wow, now that's awesome because a lot of times, we start off with things in life and we may get sidetracked due to life or whatever. But it's
Right.
amazing how you stuck with it and God
Mhm.
allowed your purpose and your calling to be fulfilling. Whereas, because He know things is going to happen in our life way better than we know. And as things
That's
go
right.
on, do know that you may have had things that happened to you in your life that actually allowed you to really stay into this area so you can be able
Yes.
to help others come out as well. Would you like to share some of that with us as well?
Absolutely. There's a scripture that talks about walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you've been called. I can remember that was back when I was married, a pastor's wife. And I remember literally sitting in an afternoon service and the guest minister, he used that passage of scripture. And I was sitting there and I was like, how am I going to walk worthy of being a mortician? Because nobody wants to see a mortician, right? It
Right.
wasn't until I went through my own tragedy of the death of my marriage. And when I
Wow.
went through that, that's when God really, it was just like He catapulted me into this ministry. I call it ministry slash business, business slash ministry. And then I
Yes.
really understood the purpose of walking worthy of that vocation in which He called me to.
Wow, that's amazing. So, like I tell people, and it's been my mantra for the last few years, God gave me this, He was basically showing me that to not waste your pain because your pain has purpose. All
Yes,
of
it
us,
does.
our pain has purpose. Everything that we go through does is purposeful. And a lot of times we fight it. We don't want to go through things. We like, well, why me, God? Why me? But
Right.
actually, there's a reason why it's you. There
That's
are some
right.
more people that you may have to help and bring out. So we just have to just be okay with the call and say, okay, God, now show me how to get through this because He's the helper, He's the paraclete, He's the one that's going to sustain us and keep us because we definitely cannot keep ourselves. So that's the good
Absolutely.
thing about that, how He actually how He kept you throughout this whole thing, like you said,
Mhm.
throughout the divorce and when you lost loved ones and how you was able to go through your grieving process and you realize like, wow, there's something more. There are others out there that need help, that need
That's
that guidance, that need that kind of show them how to get through the process. Because you will be
right. Mhm.
amazed at how many people are still stuck in grieving. They still may not have grieved, a loved one or a loss of a relationship. Because loss can go further than just someone may have died. It could have been like
Yes.
of a relationship. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and take the floor from here. I just want to give them a brief introduction of who you are and what you do. So I'm gonna let you just take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I want to appreciate you for allowing me to be with you on your wonderful platform. I always honor a privilege just like this, just to be able to share a piece of my passion. And I just wanted to introduce myself to those, again, who don't know me. Again, my name is Dr. Tonya Cunningham. And just as she said, I'm known as the grief doctor. Why? Because I help grieving and hurting individuals. I help them transition from loss to life, from pain to purpose, and to recognize there is life after loss. It's just
Yeah.
a different life. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. All right. So, what are some ways that you think that we can go through this process? I know we discussed like we want to unpack this. There are some people that just don't even know, they don't know where to begin. So,
That's right.
based on your experiences and going through this whole process with different levels and different, different way in and way out, what would be some ways I want you to break it down and to walk us through the process of how to unpack this pain?
Absolutely. The first thing I would say is to really sit down and assess where you are as an individual. A lot of times we can be in what we call the denial stage. And that is a normal response after loss when you're going through any type of life transition, denial, or some people may refer to it as shock. But you really want to assess where you are and sit in that moment. Ask yourself, how am I really doing? But the reality is, when you're in the assessment, it really depends upon when the loss took place, because if it's really within the first few months or so, you may have to deal with what I call with the business of grief before you can really deal with the emotionality of grief, because you're having to make decisions. You're having to plan to move if your loss was dealing with the house or your car, or you are having to plan the funeral of your loved one. But when you are able to sit and deal with your pain, you want to assess where you are. Ask yourself, and then ask other people that you trust that are close to you. They can definitely tell you, no, I don't think that you're quite probably dealing with your hurt and your pain. So you definitely want to assess, because what we have a tendency to do is to suppress our hurt and our pain. Thus, that's why we're talking about it tonight. Unprocessed pain. Let's unpack it, because it's there. It's there. And then the second thing that you can do after you assess, then you basically want to accept where you are. Accept that wherever you are in that particular stage. If you are in the angry stage, or you're angry and mad or frustrated or disappointed, here's another one where I find a lot of people, if you're depressed, listen, depression is nothing to be ashamed of. We have to remove that stigma as it relates to depression, because depression is a part of grief. Now, it doesn't mean that you're clinically depressed because you go through this moment of depression because of your grief or your loss or whatever unprocessed pain that you haven't dealt with. But you want to accept where you are. What is your current reality? Because you cannot heal from that if you don't acknowledge and accept where you are. So the first thing you can do is assess where you are. Second thing you can do is accept where you are. And then the last thing I want you to do is really to make adjustments. Make adjustments.
Awesome.
Yeah, people will find it difficult. They'll say, I want change, but it is very difficult to make the necessary adjustments to make that change happen.
Wow, now that's amazing. Now I want us to really just think about this whole process, because she just gave us two things that we can actually start looking at when you want to unpack the pain. The first one she mentioned was accessing where you are. And a lot of times we don't think about that. We don't look at the overall picture, like, where am I? Why am I going through this? Okay, we suppress a lot of that anger. How do we handle it? So what would be some ways that you would suggest that we can start analyzing our own self, as to show us, like, 'cause some of us may not be able to go to a therapist or a counselor for what have you. So what can we do at home in the beginning phase? No, if it's not too far, because sometimes it can go just too far. You may have to go seek a clinical or professional help. But what are some things that we can do ourselves at home when we're trying to access?
That's good, because what it looks like, what unprocessed pain, hurt, or grief, or whatever it is that you're dealing with, what it looks like anger. It looks like depression. It looks like anxiety. It looks like physical sickness. Guess what? It even looks like marital problems. I had one lady come for counseling. She came for marital counseling. But when we got to the root of the issue, it was grief. She was feeling guilty because she had not done a particular thing or responded in a particular way when her mother died 6 years ago. Wow. So she had suppressed that. So we had to unpack that. It took us about an hour to really get to the root of the issue. So what I suggest people to do is to look at your behavior. Are you snapping at people? Okay. Are you easily agitated? Your tolerance level is 0. Look at your behavior and really assess that, and pay attention to your body and how you feel, because the body, there's a book out there called The Body Keeps Score. So when we go through grief and emotional trauma, it impacts our body. So pay attention to how you feel. Those are ways that you can assess, because we can become comfortable with dysfunction. We're used to feeling this way. We're used to feeling tired and fatigued. So we don't think anything's wrong when it really is.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, you gave us a mouthful, because you showed us how we can access it, but then you also told us ways that we can accept where we are. If you are depressed, like you said, if you are depressed, okay, own up to it. I'm depressed. A lot of times, I know as females, we tend to do a lot. We wear many hats, right? And we tend to hold on to more. And we tend to not think that it's a problem, because we think it just go along with the job of being a mom, of being a wife, of being a co-worker. So we take on so much and we wear many hats, but in actuality, you have anxiety, you are depressed, you're stressed, you
Mhm.
know, and then, like
Mhm.
you said, being able to unpack all these things. Now, I don't know
That's
about you all, but this is some amazing information to me because I see it happen a lot with people that I talk to all the time, whereas they're not unpacking the pain that they're
right. Mhm.
going through. They're just carrying it from day to day to day. And what they're
Mhm.
doing is they're adding onto it daily. So now you started with a little carry on, like a little side bag, but now you got a
That,
big duffel bag. You got a
that's
big
right.
duffel bag down. So now you carrying on many, many things. So I'm just glad that Dr. Tonya is here to help us and show us ways that we can unpack this pain. She showed us that told us that we need to access it. We need to accept it. What else do you think we need to do, Dr. Tonya? Because this is good to me, you guys. And before you say the next, I want you all to make sure you share this out. Put somebody's
Yeah.
name and people to tag someone. Because you know, we
Mhm.
all know people, we know family members know because we talk to one another. Before we go
Right.
talk to a clinical psychologist, before we go talk to a therapist or what have you, we go talk to one another. We go call girlfriend, girl, I'm just sick of him. Girlfriend, I'm sick of her. You know, we
Right.
gonna let it out, we gonna talk to one another. But in actuality, we talking to the wrong people, to be
Right.
honest. We talking to the
Mhm.
people who cannot help us. And that's the bad part about that. But sometimes it is good to just to release it. So she's
Yes.
showing us the healthy way. Because no, we have things that are not healthy. We release the wrong people and they feed into it instead of releasing to someone that can actually get you delivered and show you how to unpack those things so you can move forward in life. So what
Right.
is something else or another way that you feel that we can help unpack this pain?
I want to definitely expound or just reiterate what you just said, finding the
Okay,
right
good.
people. And I think that's
Yeah,
something that will help. That will be the next thing. Once you start unpacking this, because some of it is so traumatic, depending
yeah,
upon what you went through, if it's a molestation, if it's a rape, because again, the reality is unresolved pain, issues, hurt, grief, none of that goes away in and of itself. It has to be dealt with. It lays dormant in your life until another crisis comes along, and then it explodes, like I call it a volcano. Like a
right.
volcano explodes, that's what's going to happen. So you want to find a safe place to unpack. I call it your stacked trauma. You're
Mm,
stacking it. And a lot of times it's not because you don't want to unpack, you don't have a safe place to unpack. And if you're a child, again, because you're younger and you don't have that safe place, so you want to find a safe place to be able to unpack, letting somebody know what's going on, from a spiritual standpoint, and yes, from a clinical standpoint. And then
wow.
once you do that, then I want you to look at adjusting, just like
Mm,
you go to the chiropractor. I've been to
yeah.
the chiropractor once, well, initially once in my life, and it was after a car accident I had several years ago. Dr. Shalonda, I didn't go back. I didn't go back. I should have. The reason I didn't go back is because it was painful, because he had
Right.
to put it back in alignment. So that's what
Mm.
pain does. It takes you out of alignment. And so you
Wow.
have to do the necessary work to get back into alignment of your new normal. So the question I have for people, are you ready to make the necessary adjustments? Are you ready to make the necessary changes in your life, which may include setting boundaries? Setting
Yes.
boundaries. There are some people you may not be able to be connected with during this season of going through your healing. So adjustment is going to be something that you would have to do and make a decision upon that.
Wow. So I want to elaborate more or ask you questions about the adjustment.
Okay.
I know a lot of times you mentioned about the alignment part, like you used a great example of the chiropractor, but also like when like you said, you have relationships, you have people, you have friends, you have loved ones, you have family members, and a lot of times you may not be comfortable with sharing your innermost secrets, with strangers, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to become vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to become vulnerable and you have to release yourself to someone that you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
or someone that may be more experienced to help you unpack the trauma that may be
Mm-hmm.
going on with you. And that's very good to know that there are people that you can have a safe place with. There are people that you can have this conversation. And a lot of times it may not be your family member, your friend, or your girlfriend, who you feel like you may be most comfortable with, but they may not be able to help you. But there is someone that, and then also pray, God, send me someone to help me. Lord, send me, because you know in your knowing that your girlfriend can't help you. Y'all just be talking. She ain't
That's
helping
right.
the situation, and you ain't either. Right? You just be real with yourself. You already know. You look like good Kim jacket. Go bye, because you ain't helping. You making it worse, right? You know, we think that no, we
Right.
talking one to one with your friends, you know. But
That's
then you
right.
realize, you know what, I really need help. You know, you really need, and it's like you realize because it go on, and don't let one trauma come after another trauma after another trauma. Now you got this whole big stack. Like you said, you got to start unstacking things, and then you get into relationships, and you taking all this into the relationships, right?
Mhm.
With who your loved one, your spouse or whomever, and
That's
now
right.
he's wondering what is wrong with her. Like, why is she tripping? She
Hmm.
going off on me for no reason. That's because of that that unprocessed baggage that you brought into their relationship that you didn't take care of and that you didn't unpack like you should have unpacked. So
Yes.
this is really good, you guys, Dr. Tonya. It's like when people see this and hear this, I want them to be able to share this and let them know that there is help for them and that you are a grief doctor. Like I said, you've been in this process. You guys, if you missed the intro, she's been in this for over 30 years. So she's been dealing with people with transitioning, people that have lost loved ones and trying to figure out even going through divorce. Come on, being able to transition from lost to live again. She's
Yeah.
gone through all of this, so she know exactly how it feels to be able to go through and experience these different types of losses and still be able to come out on top, still be able to live again. Because
Yes.
some people feel like once you've lost a loved one or you
Mhm.
transition to something else, because sometimes you may transition from friendship to friendship because God may be placing you in a different area or maybe
Yeah.
taking you to a different place. And there's nothing wrong with that other individual. It's just where you may be going at the time that you may have to transition from one thing to another. And that's a loss of a relationship. That's
Yes,
a
it is.
loss of a friendship, and it may hurt you to your being because
Mhm.
you really like that individual. You love that sister. You're like, I love her. But God may
Right.
be transitioning you to a place where she can't go with you. And not
Mhm.
that you have to be mean and rude, like you can't be my friend. Or no, it's a way you do it, of course, you know. But
Yes.
just being able to have someone you can talk to show you how to decipher different ways, to how to be very strategic when you're trying to go about and you're doing these different things. So this is amazing to me. This is some good information. And I hope you all are loving it. As you come in, state your name and where you're tuning in from, because we want to be able to shout you out, because this is some good information and it may be someone you know. If it is, go ahead and tag them, let them know, you know, hey, we're on here for you this evening. And even if they got to come back, and if you're not watching it live, that means that red button is no longer there. You may be watching a replay. That's okay as well. I'm definitely going to share Dr. Tanya's information at the end of this broadcast. Whereas if you need to reach out to her to let her know, like, Dr. Tanya, I really need help. I'm transitioning, or I'm like, I'm going through a grieving and I don't know how, because some people don't know how to grieve. And
Right.
let's discuss that as well, because how do you grieve? I know you gave us the three things like accept,
Mhm.
you know, access,
Mhm.
also adjusting. Is there anything else that we may can think about when you're trying to go through a grieving process? I know with the pandemic,
Yeah.
we lost over 500,000 people
Right.
in this process. That's a lot of loss, right?
That's
So, and
right.
a lot of people don't know how to handle this. This is trauma on a
That's
lot of people. So how do you suggest they go through this process?
The first thing I would say is really have an understanding with every subject or with every culture. There's a particular language that goes with that particular culture or subject or topic. So with grief, there's language that we must understand. So I encourage you to understand what grief really is. And of course, know that it is universal. That means it crosses all cultures. It doesn't matter who you are, rich, poor, black, white, faith or no faith at all, everybody grieves. What is grief? It is the internal response to absolutely any kind of loss. That's why everybody grieves. Even though we're unique in our own grief process, everybody grieves. But mourning, what is mourning? This is what I teach. What is mourning, and what I have learned in my personal study as well as in school, that mourning is the external expression of the emotion on the inside. Okay, so grief is internal. That's the emotion that everybody feels. Mourning is that external expression. So for us to really get to a place of healing and managing that grief and dealing with that unprocessed pain, we must get to a place of allowing ourselves to mourn. Now, how do we do that? That was your question. There are a plethora of ways to do that. Again, after you acknowledge it, you want to seek help. We kind of mentioned that already. Now, I also wanted to add to that, when you're seeking help, you have to find a counselor or find a group, find a place where you connect. you'll know instantly if you go to a counselor, a therapist, or even a psychiatrist, psychologist, whomever you go to these individuals and you just don't connect, leave and go to the next person rather than give up on the process. Okay, you must find that connection. So that's one thing that you can do. You can reach out for help, but you can do things such as journaling. It is very, very cathartic to do journaling because it helps you to do what I call mind dumping. You're getting that information, that hurt and that pain from the inside, and you're getting it on the outside. So you can do some journaling. You can do now what is huge on the scene is adult coloring. Adult coloring is one way to allow yourself to go through the grief process. And the list goes on and on and on, but those just are a few things that you can do to really deal with your grief of the death of your loved one or the death of your relationship, or those of us who are in Texas, we're still dealing with the storm that we had in February, the winter storm. So a lot of people lost their personal belongings. They had to move out of their homes. So a lot of people are going through that grief in addition to the death of their loved ones. So yes, just allow yourself to go through this particular process of grief and mourning. And notice that both do not have to happen at the same time. Grief and mourning don't, but I encourage that you do, because if you don't pay what I call your dues of dealing with your grief, you're going to pay it later on down the road. You're going to pay it later on. So I encourage people, just get in the journey, deal with the pain. You got to feel it in order to heal it.
Got to preach right there. Come on. I am loving this. I am loving this. And again, I would like to thank each and every one of you all for tuning in this evening, because this is some awesome information that Dr. Tonya has given us, because this is something heavy, like you said, like the situation that just happened in Texas and Louisiana, where we lost a lot. You know, they went without power. Texas went without power for a long, long time. So they lost, they lost a lot of things in their homes. Some of them lost their homes. So, grief and loss can be so broad. It like you can't put like a name or a particular thing. It's like everybody has their own situation, but there's also a way for you to go through your situation. A healthy way to go through your situation. Well, this is good to me, you guys. And I'm just glad Dr. Tonya was in. She's able to help us to unpack a lot of this. And I said we got some great people. Mr. Kevin Moore. Oh my God, this is my uncle from Texas. He is in the house. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, Kevin is my uncle.
The social worker Kevin.
Yes, yes.
Hi, Kevin. I used to work with him.
I said we have a lot of people on here. I'm excited, you guys, for tuning in. This has been great information, because a lot of people need to know how to unpack their pain, because we go through it all the time. And like I said before, it may not be like everybody else's, but we all have to know how to unpack it. We all have to know how to heal and heal healthy, because a lot of times we don't heal healthy. We just try to go through our own, we like a botched up, we put a Band-Aid on it. And we try to keep it moving. And it's like you still taking that Band-Aid and you pull that Band-Aid off, it's going to still hurt. Why? Because that pain was not healed properly. You did not medicate it properly. You did not go through the process properly of it healing properly. So now, soon you put that Band-Aid off, the sore is still there. The wound is still there. It has not been healed. So I'm excited, Dr. Tonya. Is there anything else you want to share? Because I know you got so much information. Like I said, you've been in this industry for so long. And I don't want to deprive the people of anything else you may can think of that may be able to assist them this evening.
I encourage people to, in addition to doing all the things that we suggested on tonight, is to do what I call check your roots. Check your roots. You'll find that's a chapter in my book that I just released in November called Grief Work is Essential, Not Optional. And I wrote it during the pandemic, again, because grief work is essential. That's one of the opportunities that COVID gave us, when I say us as a people, to really embrace grief, because we were faced with it in a massive amount of deaths. Like you said, over 500,000 people. So what you have to do, some of us are dealing with things that, again, now here's the spiritual component that came from us generations past. So such as depression, anxiety. So you need to be able to check your root system. And I'll just use me personally, again, going through my own trauma of loss and death, of death of loved ones. I had 8 family members to die of COVID last year. 8. And so of that, again, I had to go through my grief process. But even in that, I realized that about depression is something that I thought that was really coming because of the grief I was dealing with. It was something, come to find out, when I did my root work, it was something that was present prior to all of this. It came through my lineage on my mother's side of the family. So I had to dig that out. I had to address that from the root. So that would be the thing I want to leave with you guys, to definitely do what I call check your roots, because whatever our behavior is, as we said earlier, what it looks like, what does unprocessed pain look like? It looks like anger. So that's a fruit. All of us have fruit. The question is your fruit good fruit or is it rotten fruit? Because every fruit has a root. And if it's rotten, then we need to get to that root to pull that up and out so that you can get the healing that you need.
Wow. That's amazing, guys. I hope y'all got that. A root check.
Root check. Yes.
Amazing, a root check. And that goes like very, very far, even with your health issues. You know, knowing like high blood pressure, sugar, diabetes, and all these other illnesses that we encounter, due to bad eating habits or what have you, that our fathers and grandparents and everybody, the ways that we've just been grown up and shown to do. And we take those same habits into our own lifestyles as we get older. And now, even with the healing process, like we said, what goes on in the house, stay in the house. So if you had some traumatic events that happened to you with Big Mama and them, and Big Mama, like, you know what, you better not tell nobody what goes on here, stay in this house. Like,
that's right.
What to say about Vegas. What happens when you stays in Vegas, they tell you what happened in this house. You better not bust your lips and say nothing to nobody. Right? They tell you, don't play. Right.
That's right.
And that's the same thing, but we have to realize, that's damaging to our souls. For one, our spirits are just tormented, and then our mental health is just tormented.
That's
our
right.
mental health is disrupted because they're asking you to do this, and you want to just not be just outlandish, but you got to think about your own mental health. Like, okay, God, I need healing. I need help. I know they said don't talk about this, but I need to talk about this. I need help, because no matter what relationship you get in after that, you're not going to be able to give that person your fullness. You're not going to be able to be yourself 100% because you're taking all these bad things into this relationship and you don't even know it. You don't even know the things that you're bringing, the luggage, until you start unpacking things. You get with the therapist or you get with someone that actually know what's going on, like Dr. Tonya, when you have to go through a grief counselor or someone to realize, like, oh my gosh, this is some stuff. I'm carrying some stuff. This is a lot of baggage and I need to get some help, right? So this is good, you guys. So this is just awesome to me. Is there anything else, Dr. Tonya, that you want to share? I know you said the last thing was to check your roots, which was amazing. That was like enough in itself. Check your roots. Like what's your forefathers, what's your parents, what has gone on with you before now, and you think that you really need to check yourself on, because we all got things that we could have did better in the past. We just didn't know any better. But now as you're growing up and you're getting educated on mental health and you're realizing, like, I need help with that. That ain't like, and we also would say things like, well, no, that's just Sister Shalonda. That's just Sister Watermelon. No, Sister Watermelon needs some help.
Yes,
Sister, she needs some help, right? And so we cover it up. That's what we do. We used to cover things up. Well, we never really grieved the way we should have grieved. And I'm just so glad that you was obedient and to do what God asked you to do, and even to go through the process. Because in order for you to go through your process to be able to help everyone that you come across was amazing, because you didn't have to accept the call. You could have been still fighting like, Jesus, I'm not going through this. I'm sick of this. I don't care. But you sat down, you was like, you know what, God, I'm gonna do what I got to do. And you had a passion and a desire to keep going. And I'm just thankful that you're able to keep going and do what God asked you to do and to be obedient in his call.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The last thing I want to share, just listening to you expound, it really made me think of, again, because the reason a lot of people are going through like they're going through, again, dealing with the old adages and our cultural things limitations that we put upon ourselves, is because we're walking around with soul wounds. And you mentioned spiritual standpoint again. So this is where we see a marriage of psychology and theology. Both are necessary. At
Yeah.
one point, we wanted to
Yeah.
spiritualize everything and not deal with the natural. And then at one point, a lot of us want to be all carnal. We need both because we're
Come on.
spirit, body, and
Yeah.
soul. And when we go through trauma,
That's
when
it.
you lose loved ones, when you go through the trauma of divorce or disaster or whatever it is, it wounds that soul. That's the emotional makeup of who we are. So it's very important that you address both. We need that spiritual makeup. We need prayer. We need all of that. Here's the thing. When you tell a person who's going
Yeah.
through grief, just pray about it. More than likely, they cannot pray.
Mm-mm.
They cannot pray because their soul
Exactly.
is wounded. So that's why when it says in
Yes.
James, I believe it says, if there's any sick among you, let them call for the elders and let the elders pray. So that's why we have to cover people in prayer when they are going through the grief process, because their psyche, their mind is wounded and is sick. And until they do their grief work, it's going to stay sick. It is going to stay in that place of being stuck. Yeah.
Wow. That's
Mhm.
amazing. That's amazing. Well, you guys, I hope you all have gotten this. She has given us some amazing points. Yes, some amazing points and some things. I took some notes. I hope y'all took some notes too, because Dr. Tonya was laying it down for us. The grief doctor came in and she laid it down for us today. And I just thank God for you, for your obedience again. And thank you for actually coming on the Kingdom Talk, because not only just my audience, but a lot of people need to hear this information, because again, it's definitely needed with our new normal and being able to adjust and just go forth in everyday living now. It's just, in order for us to win and be successful, we have to just check our roots. We have to
Right.
check our roots, basically. We have to check our roots. So do anyone have any questions out there for Dr. Tonya? I'm about to give you all her contact information for those of you who may want to reach out to her for grief counseling. You may be going through some things because, like I said, she have over 30 years in this area of expertise, and she'll be more than happy to help you. And if it's something that she's not able to do, she know exactly who to direct you to. Because, like I said, she's been doing this for a very, very long time. I mean, I was like 30 years gone head on, Dr. Tony, gone head on. This was so good to me. So I don't think I have any questions right now. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and share her information. So the name of this topic was Unprocessed Pain. Let's unpack it, which we've done that this evening. This has been amazing. And Dr. Tonya Cunningham's is her Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. You can reach her at Dr. Tonya Cunningham, her Instagram, Facebook, and her LinkedIn. You do not want to miss this information. You may want to screenshot it if you don't have a pen or paper readily available. You can always screenshot. We've been on them phones 24/7. So you can always screenshot that information. And she have all of her information on her website, you guys. So you can go to her website at www.drtonyacunningham.com. And she also have a tcministries.com as well. You can go and find all her information about her ministry, as well as about her calling and what she do and how she actually help everyone. So I'm excited, you guys. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to her right here on Facebook. This has been a treat as well as a delight
Thank
for
you.
me this evening to be able to, it's like I just know so many people need this, and it's like, and it just really just does my soul well to know that there are people out there that can help them, especially in the grief area, because a lot of times you can reach out to people in other areas, but when it comes down to grief, we kind of overlook that, and the people just don't know how to grieve. And it's amazing that for you to have that type of service available for people to know how to learn how to grieve if they don't know how to grieve.
That's right.
So it is a process, and you actually walk them through that process. So that is amazing. That is amazing. So you guys, I'm not going to hold you long, but this has definitely been great for us this evening here on Kingdom Talk. I want to let you all know as well. Before I close out, Dr. Tanya, is there anything else you want to say in the final words? Anything before I close this out?
Continue to do your grief work. And thank you for tuning in.
Great. Thank you all so much, you guys. You can reach us here every Friday at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. We're here every Friday. You never know who our special guest may be. I normally advertise it throughout the week, but you just never know. I try to make sure that we have people on here that can be able to help you be food for your soul, to give you prescription for kingdom living, because that's what's going to sustain you. That's what's going to keep you going throughout your everyday life, and to have you to win throughout this whole process. So remember, every Friday, we're here every Friday at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. So if that's not all, Dr. Tonya, I'm trying to see, do we have any questions? Do anybody have any concerns or anything they may have for you? I'm checking here before I close out.
Okay.
If not, I'm not going to prolong the time. I'm going to go ahead and end. Well, thank you all so much again. Thank you, Dr. Tonya, for coming out and sharing your time and your amazing information with the audience today. And you all be blessed until next time.
Thank you.